Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome back. I hope that your day has been just outstanding so far. We've got some business to attend to today. Documents from the Charlie Kirk assassination are now out, and we're not only going to go through the probable cause affidavit and the information, which is the big one, including the text messages and all of the other bits that you may have seen some about recently, but we're also going to look into George Zinn, the other dude who was charged with obstruction and a bunch of exploitations of a minor charges that we're going to get into because all the documents are out. And one concept we're talking about today is this concept right here called accessory after the fact, which is an interesting concept that's a close cousin to the obstruction of justice charge that we're going to see here today too, because we got to talk about Tyler Robinson, the alleged assassin's boyfriend or trans friend or whatever they call themselves. But the interesting thing happened, something interesting happened with their text messages, and we want to see what you say about it. Do you think these are real or not? But quick preview on what we're getting into, and then we'll zoom in on further detail. Tyler Robinson, and by the way, all the case files that we have here, all the PDFs, I took screenshots of everything. They're all organized on our Substack now. So I've got 2 pages over there, all the case files. So if you want to go download all the documents, they're there. And this is what it looks like. So we're going to talk about Tyler Robinson, and we're going to talk about this guy, George Zinn. And he was a very interesting character because he was interfering, obstructing, maybe being an accessory to this whole thing after the fact. And we also want to know if anybody else in these chat groups were also accessories after the fact, or if they were co-conspirators before the assassination took place. So all of that linked in the description if you want to go check it out. But we're going to go into the document. So we've got the affidavit of probable cause. We've got the information, which is the big one. And then we've got the public assessments about whether this dude should be released, what his failure to appear scale rating is, what his criminal activity scale rating is, and all the details on what they found after he met with the pretrial people. We've also got reaction on this from this guy who was saying that this was like a beautiful love story between this couple who may or may not have been colluding to kill Charlie, but weird thing that's happening. And I wanted to share this with you because they're trying almost to like love him up, to turn him into something that he isn't, to make him sympathetic and almost follow the same template and pattern that we saw with Luigi Mangione, turning him into a leftist icon or a leftist hero. So we'll go through that. That guy's very excited about that trans relationship. And we'll also hear from Mike Johnson. But we'll then turn our attention to other documents. Okay, so this also came out courtesy of Ken Klippenstein, and he's got the Discord messages as well. So we've got text messages. Now we've got leaked Discord messages that the government, the officials haven't released to us. And so we'll go through those. We've also got some pretty horrific stories about the first transgender Olympian, this individual right here. Oh my gosh, who is now celebrating Charlie's death like a monster. And Rubio says, let's kick these people out of our country if they're here on a visa and celebrating murder. So we'll go through all that. Then we'll turn our attention to George Zinn. Here are the documents here. This is his obstruction case. And we've got the affidavit. Not a lot there. I'm sure the information will be released soon. But we also have his criminal history. And you can see he's in the red. Robinson's in the green. He's in the red. And he's been around this a lot. Now, Congress is subpoenaing a bunch of individuals, Discord, or not subpoenaing, rather, inviting Discord, Steam, Twitch, and Reddit to come in and testify about this and see what's inside those messages. Of course, we'll see what that leads to. And then we have a second case for George Zinn. And he, in addition to the obstruction charge, has a whole history of charges in Utah, but also a second case that was related. I mean, he got arrested. They looked in his phone and boom, here are the charges. 4 counts. Exploitation of a minor. Those are not good charges, of course. And so we'll see what that involved because we've got the whole affidavit listed out here about what he was saying and all sorts of stuff. So a lot to get to today, my friends. Very glad that you're here. and with us. We appreciate you joining us. I hope your week is unfolding beautifully. We had a great members-only stream this morning. We're talking about a little bit of the fracture that seemingly is happening in the Republican Party. We saw Tucker and Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens explaining their take on Charlie Kirk's legacy, and we saw a lot of reaction to that. We talked about all that this morning. There'll be a segment coming out on that, and it is a juicy battle that's happening. So we had a great conversation about that this morning with our members. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting our work here as a member. Thank you for subscribing to our channel and all the things. And we're very glad that you're here and with us. All right, now let's get into it on the day. Charges now brought against the Charlie Kirk assassin named Tyler James Robinson. You can see we've got the affidavit queued up here, and we've got all of the other documents related to his initial appearance, which took place yesterday. Now, the big reveal was this from the criminal information, and we heard a full press briefing about this yesterday, about 45 minutes, and essentially they were just reading through the police report and giving us the details. And so we'll do that here, I think, much more effectively. But the big reveal was about these text messages. And there's some strange stuff going on with these text messages that you'll see down here. And the real big question, of course, is it real at all? Or was the very first message that says, drop what you're doing and look under my keyboard, was that a set of instructions to engage in a ruse that took place, that followed, in order to exonerate this dude's trans lover? Well, we'll see what the texts say. So all that is coming up, and we've got the public safety assessment report that's also come out that gives us some details on what they think of Tyler Robinson's criminality. So we'll go through all that. But as we're reading through this, there's this concept called accessory after the fact. Okay, somebody commits a crime and you help them after it's over. A lot of what we've been talking about is who was involved in the planning of this. Okay, who was in the trans groups, the Discord groups, the text message groups, the chains, who was endorsing this, encouraging it, maybe providing aid, maybe providing assistance, saying, we'll actually help you with this. You know, we'll pick up the rifle at the drop point and all the things that we've heard about. But that's all before the assassination takes place. What happens after the fact? Well, accessory after the fact may be one possible option for investigation and prosecution. Telling us over from Cornell that an accessory after the fact is someone who assists one, so it's like sub check boxes, someone who has committed a crime, political assassination, murder, check that box. After the person has committed the crime, you assist them. It's over. So you could say that, you know, dropping to your knees and faking an arrest, saying that I'm the shooter, is maybe an accessory after the fact. Of course, we're talking about George Zinn. But what about other people who may have been helping him stay in hiding for those 33 hours after the shooting took place? Now, with the knowledge that the person committed the crime, so now you're made aware, oh, that person's a criminal, they shot somebody, and now that Charlie Kirk is dead. And 4, with the intent to help that person avoid arrest or punishment. An accessory after the fact may be held liable for, among other things, obstruction of justice, which George Zinn was charged with. But Title 18 of the U.S. Code codifies this thing, and it's the government's burden to prove that you were assisting this person after the crime occurred. So that, of course, coming over from Cornell, and we're keeping that, you know, pinned in our brains as we're analyzing the rest of the documents. And so here's what we've got. In the case of Tyler James Robinson, the alleged assassin of Charlie Kirk, who is now in custody after apparently an admission from him by his parents, who then brought him into federal law enforcement custody, who has now not apparently confessed to anything, right? Being completely uncooperative now that he's in custody. But this was the first in time narrative that we get, the affidavit of probable cause. And I believe this was actually leaked by Steven Crowder, but it's official now. So he had a good source there. And we also have the criminal information, which is a much broader document that is going to be presented on his initial appearance. So this document, the probable cause, is essentially to keep him in custody. And then the next statement is to put some meat on those bones as the prosecution moves forward, so the judge can say, okay, yeah, we're going to hold you in custody. This is the nature of your release conditions. We're going to appoint you a lawyer and all the things. So this is where this starts. This individual is saying, I believe there's probable cause. His name is Brian Davis, who is on behalf of the government. Brian Davis says the following. All right, this information was obtained from your affiant From police officers, multiple video recordings on social media websites, the Utah Valley University campus surveillance cameras, and those who witnessed the incident. Okay, so big bash of sources here. On September 10th, Charles James Kirk, rest in peace, was at the Utah Valley University for a political event. Now, Mr. Kirk is a conservative political activist who was scheduled to speak there, and the courtyard area is to the west of the Lossy Center. Now, according to video recordings, Charlie was wearing a white t-shirt and dark pants, sitting under a white canopy in the courtyard of the campus facing to the east. The event was attended by hundreds of individuals. Charlie was surrounded by people with multiple individuals to his left, right, rear, and the front of the canopy. Behind the canopy was a walkway used for access to the university. Now, Charlie was holding a microphone and speaking to the crowd like a maniac person, right? With a microphone, wrecking America like a fascist with a microphone, as they say. Obviously, I'm being facetious. While speaking into the microphone, they shot him. A loud gunshot was heard at 12:23 hours, and Charlie appeared to have been hit in the neck. Blood was seen coming out of the left side of his neck as he fell over to his left. We're all still traumatized by that. Charles was transported to the Timpanogos Regional Hospital, pronounced dead at the hospital. Investigators reviewed the surveillance cameras. Who did this? While reviewing the cameras, investigators observed an individual on the rooftop of the center at the time of the shooting. Hereafter, the unidentified individual will be referred to as the suspect. Now, based on the surveillance camera footage, the suspect appears to be a white male, dark-colored hair, wearing a dark-colored hat, sunglasses, a long-sleeve black shirt with a picture of an American flag and an eagle printed on the shirt, dark-colored jeans, white-gray shoes with white-colored shoelaces. The shoes appear to be consistent with Chuck Taylor Converse-style shoes. The suspect is also carrying a dark-colored backpack on his back. Suspect walks with a distinctive gait, probably the rifle there in the pant leg. Now, prior to the shooting, suspect appears to walk with a stiff right leg at a relatively slow pace, and the ability to bend his right leg appears to be restricted. Investigators were able to track his movements on the university campus starting at approximately 11:50 on 9/10, right? And this was before we got the idea that he changed his clothes. So they pick him up late. We learn later, I think we're going to see, that he was actually on campus earlier and just changed his clothes. So who's the guy in this outfit? They just backtraced it. Oh, we pick him up at 11:50. So then at 11:50, a surveillance camera first captured the suspect walking across a grassy area of the North Campus Drive at 800 West. He walked south through the parking lot and approached a pedestrian tunnel that runs underneath the campus. Before entering the tunnel, he paused at the top of the stairs and pulled out what appeared to be a cell phone from his right pocket, using his right hand at approximately 11:53. Now, he eventually put what appeared to be a cell phone back in his right pocket using his right hand. So was he just checking the time? Was he just looking at the time or the date, seeing anybody text me? Or did he use it? Surveillance captured the suspect making his way. Was he texting somebody? I'm about to be in position or something. At approximately 12:02, suspect was recorded walking on the north side of the Lossy Center building, walking with the same gait as earlier. He entered the Lossy Center building through a set of doors in the southeast corner of the center building. At 12:15, he was then observed walking up the stairs that led to the common area adjacent to the building. He then walked to a short concrete wall that separates the common area from the rooftop of the building. And then at 12:17, climbed over the short wall, appeared to crouch down on the north side of the wall on the rooftop. Then at 12:22, he stood up and started running across the rooftop of the Lossy Center. The notable limp, absent. He ran to the west side of the rooftop and appeared to scoot along the rooftop area as he got closer to the edge. Then at 12:22, he laid down in a position consistent with the prone shooting position near the edge of the rooftop in the direction of the courtyard area. The rooftop of the Lossy Center overlooks the courtyard area. And then at approximately 12:23, Charlie Kirk was shot, right? And we noted that at the beginning. It's like, man, that dude got into position at 12:22. A shot rang out 60 seconds later, and it was a direct hit. And he got on the roof pretty quickly. Okay, he's like racing over there. Then he climbed over. He stood up and started running across the roof. Okay, so he's like running, drops down. He's in position at 12:22. 1 minute later, shot goes off. Then surveillance shows he pops right back up. Stood up suddenly from the edge. And, I know there's a lot of very, very excellent, firearms people out there. But I imagine that's kind of a tough thing to do, is just, run, lay down, make the shot, hit the shot, get up and sprint back out of there, which is interesting. I mean, it's, he's got proficiency with a firearm. He's not sitting there lying in wait, waiting for the perfect time, waiting for 10 minutes until Charlie Kirk and all the people are moving out of the way, waiting for the opportune time. So Charlie sits back and puts the mic down, and he's got a clean shot. He just made it happen, right? He just went down, boom, got in position, shot, and was up. So, I mean, that says something about who we're dealing with. And that's, I think, a characteristic. We want to, validate that this dude is capable of that. At approximately 12:23, surveillance shows he stood back up and sprinted on the rooftop of the building. He then ran to the northeast corner of the building and approached the edge of the rooftop. He then placed a dark-colored item on the rooftop and proceeded to lower himself off. He then dropped off the rooftop onto the grass below. He ran north near the parking lot at approximately 12:24 hours, like a minute later. And he's saying it's a dark-colored item, so he can't tell if it's the gun. What is it? Is it the backpack being thrown off? What is it? Suspect dropped off the rooftop, then ran north near the parking lot. 12:24, runs across Campus Drive Road, then appeared to be carrying an item. Can't tell what it is. The area to the north of the Campus Drive Road, where this suspect crossed over, consists of a grassy area and is at the edge of the campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark-colored towel, and Cash Patel says they've got a DNA evidence match to this dude. The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98, 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on this, including, "Notice his bulge. What's this?" with the kind of emoji like the big eyes. Inscriptions on 3 unfired casings called "Hey Fascist, Catch," up arrow symbol, right arrow symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired case saying, "Oh, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao." We know that one. And then, of course, if you read this, you're gay one. Now, investigators also discovered a shoe impression, and it was located in the vicinity where he climbed down from the rooftop. The impression is consistent, again, with the shoes called Converses. Now, on the evening of September 11th, so the shooting happens at 12:23. We've got on the evening of September 11th, so September 10th, Charlie died. So we're now kind of over 24 hours of the evening. Family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the sheriff saying that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he did it. The information was then relayed to Utah sheriff and scene investigators and was also conveyed to the FBI. Then investigators reviewed additional video footage from surveillance and identified Robinson on the campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at 8:29. Okay, so he was on the campus much earlier on September 10th. And he's observed in that video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light colored shorts, a black hat with a white logo, and light colored shoes. When encountered in person, he was observed in consistent clothing with the surveillance images, right? And he kind of wore the same shirts based on the photos that we saw, just different colors. It's basically the same, scam we run here. Same brand, same sizes, just different shapes and colors. Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner before September 10th, and in a conversation with another family member, mentioned Charlie was coming. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints he had. Family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member stated that, or the shooter? The family member also confirmed that Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger. All right, so do we have 2 people who think that Charlie's bad, or is it just the one guy? Investigators identified an individual as the roommate of Robinson, Lance. Investigators interviewed the roommate, who stated that his roommate, Robinson, made a joke. It's just a joke on Discord. He says, "Oh, no, I don't know what he's talking about. It's just a joke." Investigators asked if he would show them the messages on Discord, and he opened it and showed several messages to investigators and allowed investigators to take photos of the screen as each message was shown by Robinson's roommate. And why would he say that? If he got, as we're going to see, he got a clear confession, allegedly, from Tyler Robinson, as we're going to see. Tyler Robinson, so just to fast forward on this, in the criminal information, which we're coming to next, back down here, we're going to see in the text messages, "You weren't the one who did it, right?" "I am. I'm sorry. I did do it." Okay, and we're going to read through this. "What? You're joking, right? You're joking, right?" Kind of over-engineered a little bit. We'll come back to this. But it's interesting. So if the roommate, or the Lance Twiggs, the trans boyfriend, who's the roommate, if he has a full-blown confession in these messages, why was he reporting to the cops as soon as they showed up? Oh, he just made a joke on Discord. Okay. Well, what about the text messages that he sent to you where he admitted it? Investigators asked, will you show us? He did. He showed them several messages, and he allowed them to take photos of the screens of the messages. Now, these photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact named Tyler with an emoji icon. What emoji? I don't know. And Robinson's roommate's device. The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating he needed to retrieve a rifle from a drop point. Does that sound like a joke to you? Leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. Huh? Is that all jokey? It's like, oh, he just made a joke on Discord? What? Let me see the joke that you're talking about there, Lance. What kind of jokes do you guys tell? Oh, murder jokes. Got it. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope in the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact Tyler also mentioned that he had changed outfits. Now, based on the evidence detailed, I believe there's probable cause that Tyler Robinson committed the crimes of aggravated murder of Charlie Kirk and put many around him in grave risk, and felony discharge of a firearm, obstruction of justice for hiding the rifle, and all of that submitted initially. Okay, this was entered back on 9/12, and we saw that the Crowder crew leaked a lot of that for us. But then we got the criminal information, which is now submitted as a part of his initial appearance. And we get some more facts submitted that we can apply. Here are the charges. Of course, count 1, aggravated murder. He knowingly killed Charlie Kirk because he's a monster. Now, conviction of this offense may carry the death penalty, and they announced that yesterday during the proceedings. They also say they targeted Charlie Kirk because of his political expression, so they're going to add a sentencing enhancement if they get a conviction. They say if we find that he targeted somebody based on their political views, that can be an aggravating factor. And so when we talk about felonies, we have a lot of these charts that you kind of just move up and down in the charts. You can have aggravating factors that will move towards a stronger, higher sentence, and you can have mitigating factors that will push you back towards a mitigated, lesser sentence. Now, this was also an aggravating factor. There were children in the area when you shot and killed Charlie. Also, felony discharge, same type of enhancement, and of course, obstruction of justice. Because he concealed and removed the firearm, second-degree felonies. He's trying to delay. And then we have all these other charges that have been added here. So the initial first three were the first three that we saw. Then they've added tampering with a witness, which is related to his roommate to withhold testimony, information, and directing his roommate, this is the action, to delete the incriminating text messages, okay? Now, did the roommate do that at all? Because we're going to see this story about look under my keyboard and there's a note there. So look at that note and then respond after you've read that note. So yes, he directed, so we can charge him tampering with a witness, but was the roommate an accomplice after the fact? Did the roommate know and actually maybe delete something or do something differently based on the note? The note comes out. Maybe he takes a picture of that note. That's the fake note. It's not the real note. The real note says, hey, we're going to have a ruse coming up here. So just nuke this because I want to make sure you don't get in trouble. And then just play this game with me where we have this conversation back and forth. So we also have count 6, tampering with a witness, third-degree felony, saying that he directed his roommate to stay silent if police questioned the roommate. And the roommate sounds like he didn't do that. Or the roommate would have a ruse. Okay, if the roommate comes in and the roommate's like, I'm not saying anything. You're all screwed. I'm not giving you access to anything, blah, blah, blah. He immediately becomes a suspect, right? A co-conspirator. So he's got to have something to talk about. He's got to, oh, no, I had no idea. There's a lot of that crap going on out there these days. No, I had no idea. Political violence? I've never called anybody a Nazi ever. Oh, yeah, you did, PB&J. We got 15 different posts about it showing the same. So a lot of this, right? I have no idea. So here you have another one, a misdemeanor, violence committed in the presence of a child. And here's the more full statement from the same investigator, Brian Davis of the State Bureau of Investigations. He says, all right, on September 10th at 12:23, Charlie Kirk was shot and killed while speaking to a large crowd in Utah. Police found the suspected murder weapon, a bolt-action .30-06 rifle nearby. Now, over the next approximately 33 hours, and a lot of people are going, oh gosh, the Freemasons did it. Police conducted a manhunt for the shooter until the evening of September 11, 2025, when Tyler James Robinson surrendered at the sheriff's office. Now, DNA consistent with Robinson was found on the rifle's trigger. Now, after the shooting, Robinson hid the gun, count 3, discarded the clothing he wore when he fired the rifle, and told his lover roommate to delete incriminating text messages and not to talk to the police. Children were present at the time, and so this guy's got 7 counts now. Now, they give us more background on Turning Point. They say Turning Point's a nonprofit organization founded in 2012 by Charlie Kirk, and they organized a public outdoor event on September 10th. The event was the first in a series of similar events that they were going to be holding across the nation. He's a well-known conservative activist, discussed various political issues with audience members, and they've garnered significant number of supporters, and they were a lot of fun. Now, the event in Utah was announced far in advance and garnered significant publicity and interest, and consequently, several hundred people came. Mr. Kirk was interacting with the crowd before the event officially got underway. Then, approximately at noon, Mr. Kirk seated himself under a portable canopy behind a table and a microphone to have a conversation. He began speaking to the crowd and fielding questions from the attendees, a format Mr. Kirk commonly used, and he allowed questioners to come talk to him. Now, Kirk's team members were very close to him on his right and left, as well as some behind his canopy and others at various close locations near him. The large crowd surrounded Mr. Kirk on 3 sides. Temporary metal fencing separated the attendees from Mr. Kirk by only a matter of feet. Directly above and behind Mr. Kirk were the Hall of Flags, an indoor walkway spanning several hundred feet with floor-to-ceiling glass windows, which overlooked a plaza. And we saw some videos from inside there, right? People were like filming, and you could see the shooter kind of running across the roof. People were in the walkway at the time of the shooting. Now, approximately 15 minutes into the event, Mr. Kirk was answering a question about mass shootings by transgender individuals when a transgender lover who's dating a transgender shot him. A gunshot rang out. The bullet struck Mr. Kirk in the neck. He slumped to the ground almost immediately. The bullet's trajectory passed closely to several other individuals beside Mr. Kirk, including the questioner who was standing directly in front of Mr. Kirk. Children were visible near Mr. Kirk's stage when he was shot. Yeah. Mr. Kirk was rushed to a hospital, declared dead. The medical examiner's report is still pending. As far as we know, they haven't found the bullet or have any, aftermath ballistics that we can look into yet, but maybe that's coming. It says, at the moment of the shot, a police officer from Utah was watching the crowd from an elevated vantage point. As soon as he heard the shot, he began to scan the area for threats. Believing the shot came from a rifle because of its sound, he looked for a potential sniper and sniper positions. He noted a roof approximately 160 yards away from Mr. Kirk as a potential shooting position, and he rushed over there, this cop, to look for evidence. The suspected shooting position is adjacent to an open, publicly accessible walkway. To access the location, a person must climb over a railing, then drop to the roof, only slightly below. The officer climbed over the railing and down onto the roof. He then walked to the shooting position suspected and confirmed a clear shooting corridor between the position and Mr. Kirk's seat. He also noticed markings in the gravel rooftop consistent with the sniper having lain on the roof. Impressions in the gravel potentially left by the elbows, knees, and feet of the person lying in the prone position. So that's the first dude on the scene. Police reviewed surveillance from the camera covering the roof and discovered that it did record an individual dressed in dark clothing cross the railing from the public walkway and drop onto the roof at 12:15. Although the individual moved out of the camera's view for a short time, the camera again captured the individual running across the roof and then low crawling to the area that the other officer thought he was, where he had dropped into the prone shooting position. So cop comes up. He's like, he's probably right here, man. Lots of evidence right here. Camera matches. They say that's where he was. After a short time, which matches the known time of the shot, The individual arose and ran across the roof to the northeast. So goes over, lies in position. We don't see it, anything. Shot goes off. He pops back up and he's running away. This discovery led to an intensive review of the surveillance recordings to try to track and identify this guy. Surveillance revealed the following. At approximately 11:51 a.m., the day of, he entered the campus from the north. Now, he's seen wearing a black shirt with an American flag in its center, a dark baseball cap, and large sunglasses. We saw the photos. Throughout the surveillance, he keeps his head down and rarely raises his head enough to get a clear image of his face, kind of hiding behind the bill of the cap. As he proceeds across the campus, he is seen walking with an unusual gait. Many suspect that's where the gun is. The suspect walks with very little bending in his right leg, consistent with the rifle being hidden in his pants. This unusual gait continues until the suspect is seen crossing the railing off the open walkway and onto the roof, where he leaves the camera's view. Now, a camera later captures the suspect as he runs across the roof to the suspected shooting position. Immediately after the shot is fired, the camera then captures him again, running across the roof carrying an item, which looks like it's a shape consistent with a rifle. He is then seen climbing down from the roof. He appears to drop the item he was carrying, presumably the rifle, as he hits the ground in a controlled fall. He then picks up the item and runs towards the northeast end of the campus. Okay, and all this is happening fast. Right after the shot, he pops back up. We saw the timeline before. So he's not assembling, disassembling or reassembling the firearm, right? The idea was, well, where is the gun when he's dropping off the roof? And we can't see it. It's all pixelated. So some people say, well, there's a screwdriver up there. Kash Patel also said there was a screwdriver somewhere. So maybe he used the screwdriver to take the bolt out, take the barrel out, and kind of shove it in there. And it's in the backpack so that you can't see the gun when he's dropping off the roof. Or maybe the gun is just not visible because it's so far away and it's all pixelated and it just looks like kind of a bulky object in the aftermath. So then they see him hop off the roof and run. So then law enforcement officers, they follow the escape path to the northeast end of the campus, where they believe he left campus and entered a wooded area nearby. In that wooded area, investigators found a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a towel. The rifle contained 1 spent round and 3 unspent rounds. This is consistent with the facts officers observed at the time of and immediately after the shooting. No shell casings were found on the roof, suggesting a bolt action rather than an auto-loading weapon, and only a single round was fired, so he didn't eject anything. Each round in the rifle contained an etched inscription as follows. Fired cartridge, and we get a little bit more detail because this is capitalized, and notices bulge, and then this is like an emoji face, I think, like, you know, like what? Like big eyes. What's this? And we think this is a furry type of thing because they are talking about their genitals or something. Then there's a second cartridge called Hey Fascist Catch, and there's arrow symbols. And many people are saying that this is, it's kind of, you know, a double entendre. So it kind of means two things. One, the arrow symbols means that this is from a video game called Helldivers, and it's like a call for backup or something. But you could also say it's got a double meaning, right? So it's like, oh no, because you know how people just say, yeah, I mean, like, hopefully they don't get killed in a video game. You know, people say that, like, oh no, we don't want anything bad to happen to them, you know, in Minecraft, or what people say. It's not in Minecraft, you know, because, it's just a video game. We're not talking about actually killing anybody. We're just talking about falling off in Minecraft, right? Everybody kind of adds that to the end. So they're like, no, I'm not engaging in political violence because I'm just talking about video games. So kind of the same thing. Hey, fascists, catch this bullet. Are you talking about killing fascists? No. We're just video gamers. Okay. So then, oh, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao. Of course, that's the anti-fascist Italian song. And then, of course, if you read this, you are gay, LMAO. No, we're not. So the rifle ammunition rounds and towel were sent for forensic processing. DNA consistent with Robinson's was found on the trigger, other parts of the rifle, the fired cartridge casing, 2 of the 3 unfired cartridges, and a towel. Law enforcement was unable to immediately locate the shooter, so they published the photos. Asked for the public's help. Meanwhile, they tried to identify him through other means. And I thought it was weird that they couldn't identify him. I mean, my thought was, okay, it's not a Utah person. It's somebody from out of state. And so now you got 50 states to look at and think through. But I don't know if they checked the Utah DMV. I would imagine they would. But the guy probably has his photograph in their database, you know? So, okay. You do a search. There's 100 people who kind of look like this, kind of a tall, skinny white dude with these facial features. Get us 100, get us 200 names, then start going through them. Okay, that guy's too old, that guy's too fat, that guy's too whatever, too far away, whatever. Go ask some questions. Hey, where were you on September 10th? Oh, you were on campus. Get out of here. So, you can start parsing through that way. Maybe they were doing that. I don't know. But, I've represented people in Arizona charged with basically fraud or, forgery, essentially, for trying to create fake MVD photos. Try to use somebody else's ID, go in. They have two photos. They're just kind of matching them up. They say, that's not you. Rob, took a photo on this date because you're actually Rob, but then your little brother who happens to look like you came in and took a photo and used your name so that he could get an ID with his picture on it using your information. They should match the photos up. They say, he's not you. Eric is not you. You look alike, but it's not you. And so somebody's lying here. You need to come in and explain yourself. That happens automatically, right? So if they can get that good on facial features and facial recognition and connect the dots on that, how did they not just find this dude? It's honestly, he's probably got a driver's license in the DMV database. So, all right. So they couldn't find him. They're looking, I don't know. It's complicated. So on evening of September 11th, as law enforcement continued their investigation, Tyler, the shooter, went to the Washington County Sheriff's Office with his parents and a family friend and turned himself in. Now, Robinson's mother stated the following to the police. Mom. She said on September 11th, the day after the shooting, Mom saw the photo of the shooter in the news and thought, oh, crap, it looks like my son. Mom called her son and said, son, where are you? He said, I'm at home. I'm sick. And that he had also been at home sick on September 10th. Yeah. Robinson's mother expressed concern to her husband that the suspected shooter looks like Robinson. Father says, yeah, it does. Now, Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, the son had become more political and had started to lean more to the left. Yeah. Becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. The brainwashing coming into full effect. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who is transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members. Like, what are you doing? But especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views. So is this son rebelling against dad? You're not my father. And I'm going to go take out somebody that dad maybe likes. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be holding an event in Utah, which Robinson said was a stupid venue for the event. And he accused Charlie of spreading hate, which is fake. Now, Robinson's father reported that when his wife showed him the surveillance image of the suspected shooter, he agreed it looked like their son. He also believed that the rifle the police suspected the shooter used matched a rifle that was given to his son as a gift. And I believe I don't think they officially released a photo. There is a photo going around that I think was leaked to the New York Post of the gun. So I'd like to see the official gun, and it's like a grainy photo. It's like ridiculous that the New York Post had. It was like, just can you give us a little bit higher resolution of the photo, or did you take that with a potato? Because they took it with a potato. Now, as a result, Robinson's father contacted his son and asked him to send a photo of the rifle. Son, where's the rifle at? Robinson did not respond. However, dad spoke on the phone with son. The son implied, Dad, I'm going to kill myself. Robinson's parents were able to convince him to meet at their home. Well, don't do that. Just come over here. So as they discussed the situation, Robinson implied that he was the shooter. So he implied now and stated that he couldn't go to jail. I'm not going to jail. I did it. I just want to end it. When asked why he did it, Tyler explained that there was too much evil and the guy, Charlie, spreads too much hate. Where did he get that idea? Now, they talked about Robinson turning himself in, and they convinced Tyler to speak with a family friend who's a retired deputy sheriff. Jail's not that bad. You're going to be okay. You know, go through the process. At Robinson's father's request, the family friend met with the Robinsons, and his parents convinced himself to turn himself in, which is admirable, of parents to do that. I mean, I think, if they were like trans leftist freakoids, they might have covered this whole thing up, right? And what if they agreed with him? What if the parents were like, yeah, actually, we're going to be transitioning our newest babies right now? Would they have turned him in? I don't know. If it was one of these people, like you saw these people celebrating on TikTok and all over the internet, if that was their kid, do you think that they would have turned them in? Of course not. Now, the family friend spoke to police and reported telling Robinson that it would be in his best if he brought all the evidence with him to the sheriff's office. It's like, okay, bring everything you got. Otherwise, we're going to come and tear your house apart. The family friend, which they did anyways, the family friend also asked Robinson, do you have any clothes that were related to what you did? He replied he had disposed of the clothes in different areas, which I'm sure they're hopefully corroborating. Then we get to the roommate. Police interviewed Robinson's roommate, a biological male who was involved in a romantic relationship with Robinson called Lance Twiggs. And we've got a lot of this queued up on Substack. So we've got two documents, 2 pages over here on Substack now. We've got the case files link that has all the PDFs and all the documents. And we've also got the main assassination details, which give us a full breakdown of basically all the other witnesses and everybody else involved. And so we had here, this individual is called Lance Twiggs. And this is the roommate who was engaged with him. All right, just so you have some framework for that. So then we're back. The roommate, they say, they interviewed this dude, a biological male. The roommate told police that the roommate received messages from Robinson about the shooting, and he provided those messages to police. Here's how it went down. On September 10th, 2022, which obviously is a typo, which is pretty ridiculous. The roommate received a text message from Robinson, which said, drop what you're doing. Look under my keyboard. That's message 1. The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note. Now, the roommate reports that note says the following, and I don't know why he would write this note. I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it. Police found a photograph of this note, which is weird. So the roommate destroyed a note. But there's a photo of it. Did the roommate destroy the actual note, the real note as well, and just not take a photo of that one? And why would, if he's about to confess, as he's about to, and say he did it, why did he have to write a little stupid note about it? Like, he's not hiding anything. You'd write a note because you want to communicate something without actually texting it, okay? So that there's no trace of it. It's a physical note under the keyboard. This is my contingency plan. If I'm going to get caught, I need to have instructions for you so that you can read them. To say that the note says, I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and I'm going to take it, and then 2 seconds later, sending a text saying, I'm going to take out, I'm the guy who took out Charlie Kirk, there's no tactical benefit of that. There's no logical reason to even write that note. Because you're just going to explain it. You're just going to tell the person in the next text message. So why would you write that? It doesn't feel real. It feels like there was an actual note under the keyboard that gave this person instructions on what to do. And the person did the thing. And then has some note, which we'd love to see a photograph of, and do some, handwriting analysis. Did he handwrite this note? Was it a printed note? What was it? But the one note was gone. Okay, so we know that Lance is okay deleting notes because we don't actually have the physical note. We only have a photograph of the note. So bizarre. Okay, drop what you're doing. Look under the keyboard. Feels like a total ruse. Everything coming next is just, I think you can look out with a skeptical eye. And again, I don't know that it means anything really. I mean, I think that other than trying to exonerate this person and disassociate and decouple from this boyfriend, I don't know what else could be in there. Let's see if we have any hints. Now, the following text message exchange then took place. Now, after reading the note, the roommate responded, "What?" Exclamation, question. "You're joking, right?" So the ruse begins. Robinson says, "I'm still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I'm sorry to involve you." Okay, you weren't the one who did it, right? I am. I'm sorry. I thought they caught the person. No, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Roommate says, why? Why did I do it? Yeah, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence except this note, except this series of text messages. So, and we've said this before, there's that movie called Minority Report, and they have this conversation about an orgy of evidence, right? And the idea is, from TV tropes, they write, a common tactic for fictional criminals is to plant false clues, right? This was in the film. And what happened is Tom Cruise was like set up, right? You walk in and all of like photographs of all this stuff. And so he's going to kill the dude because he sees it right there on display. It's like, what is it? So when you see stuff that's kind of over-engineered, like if the guy, why would he write a note saying, I killed Charlie Kirk, read it immediately, and I'm going to just explain the rest of it over text? Like, what's the point of that? To be dramatic? Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they've moved on. I have seen everything. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. So like the dude is fleshing out like his entire crime in this text that he warned the person about. Question from the roommate. How long have you been planning this? And there's these ... dots here in the transcript, which is also interesting. You know, ... normally means like you're kind of leaving stuff out, right? ... cut out a bunch of the sentence and you pick it back up. So what is that? And I've also got questions about this transcription in general. So there's no photographs. Okay. So if they took photographs, which they did, they admitted it in the prior probable cause affidavit, then why don't we see the pictures that they took? And did some cop somewhere transcribe these? Is this why we see like vehicle lingering and some of these other things? Explaining it all out. And I wanted to grab my rifle from my drop point, not the drop point, shortly after, but then it got locked down. So we've got no timestamps on this, so we don't know when this happened, how much time was between each meeting. And obviously somebody is transcribing this. Okay, so somebody's looking at the images, typing them into this court document, and translating it in some way, shape, and form. Are they summarizing it? Is it verbatim? Normally, when they're summarizing something, they would say, oh, we're summarizing it. The following text exchange then took place. And we would imagine that that's verbatim. But we don't know. And I don't know what those ... dots mean. Was there more? Was there just a time period? Like, because they're not writing it, right? Robinson is not writing ... and it's not just going down to a new paragraph. So is something being cut out of this? Now, roommate says, how long have you been planning this? A bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there's a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it, ... something's cut out. So then Robinson comes back, and I think that there was something cut out, because wouldn't this dude respond? And like, what's the time difference between this? So would he have responded, or was this just like 5 minutes later, and the roommate's just like, I don't know, like just sitting there in shock and awe? Robinson says, I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got to my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I don't bring back Grandpa's rifle. I don't even know if it had a serial number on it, which is interesting, but it wouldn't trace to me. Okay, so it'd go back to Grandpa, who then go back to you? I worry about prints. I had time to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. Didn't have the ability or the time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints. How the F will I explain losing it to my old man? Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was engraving bullets? Yeah, the effing messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notices bulge on Fox News, I might have a stroke. All right, I'm going to have to leave it. That really effing stinks. Judging from today, I'd say Grandpa's gun does just fine. I don't know. I think that was a $2,000 scope. tears emojis, okay? Tears emojis. Again, we get another ... which leads me to believe that they're cutting something out. Don't know what it is. Or it's just like another maybe photograph. You could even, but why are they cutting all of this out? Says, okay, he then says, delete this exchange. My dad wants photos of the rifle, says Robinson. He says, Grandpa wants to know who has what. The feds released a photo of the rifle, and it is very unique. He's calling me right now, but I'm not answering. I'm sure the roommate is responding, probably a bunch of other messages. Maybe they're cutting it out because they don't want you to, read into him and blame him for stuff, but I think it's very relevant. What is this ... Is it just a new photo? What are they symbolizing? Robinson says, since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. Robinson, nothing, no response from the roommate. No time, no idea how much time. Is he just talking to himself? Then another exchange. I'm going to turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff. He says to the roommate, you are all I worry about, love. Roommate says, I'm much more worried about you. Robinson says, don't talk to the media, please. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. So strange stuff. And I don't know what those ... are. Maybe they're cutting it out for space or time. It's not relevant. It's just a bunch of other messages from the roommate. But I think we'd like to see the full exchange. Maybe we will at one point, but what are all these cuts? And why are they being cut? And why are there no timestamps? And is this a summary or is this verbatim? Was this roommate an accessory after the fact? Was this original note that says, look under my keyboard, explaining you have to pretend to be innocent. I want you to delete everything when the cops show up, because they will, because I'm going to turn myself in. You're exonerated, okay? You had nothing to do with it. Yeah, I know you were watching me engrave the bullets and we were talking about it or whatever, but now you're immunized, okay? You're totally exonerated, even though this person may have been an accessory after the fact, or even a co-conspirator in the beginning of it. In fact, he was upset about Charlie's hate as it related to the trans issue, and that's when he shot him. Now, the police executed a search warrant on Tyler's residence. During the search, police discovered shell casings with etchings like the etchings found on the shells in the rifle near the shooting. Police also found several targets with bullet holes in his home. So the various counts, count 1, murder, pertains to Robinson shooting and killing Charlie Kirk. Felony 2, discharge of a firearm. We know the charges. Saying, based on all this evidence that was received, we now believe that there's enough here from the Utah County Attorney's Office called Jeffrey Gray to bring the case against Tyler Robinson for all of those 7 counts. So strange stuff. And look, honestly, we're still early in the case. So, a criminal information is not going to have everything. There's going to be a lot more stuff. Maybe they're just cutting it for the sake of time. Maybe they think it's not relevant or pertinent to anything. And this case is not about the roommate, right? This case is about Tyler James Robinson. And so when they're writing these, it's really only evidence that's necessary to the prosecution and the indictment or the criminal charges against Tyler James Robinson. So maybe they cut it out for those reasons, but I think we'd like to know what the full extent of that is. And if those ... mean they just lopped off huge portions of this exchange, I'd like to see those exchanges, right? And not just take their ... for it and the trust us approach on any of this stuff. So we also saw Tyler James Robinson was held without bond, and the judge wrote this in their order, said this is an order to hold this person without bail, not getting out of custody. Based on the affirmation of the arresting officer, we find probable cause existed for an arrest. We didn't need a warrant. There's enough here. Now, the current offense is a capital felony, and there's substantial evidence to support the charge, and so therefore, Robinson is being held without bail, not coming out of custody. Now, when you go in and you're charged with felonies, you'll often meet with somebody, people will call them various things, but pre-trial services or probation or whatever, usually after you're convicted, but sometimes it's kind of the same office that does these assessments, and they analyze you. They say, oh, do you have criminal records? Are you a flight risk? Have you got any outstanding warrants or any of these things? And so they've done an assessment on Tyler James Robinson, and they're actually finding he's pretty low on this scale. New criminal activity scale, they hold him out of a 2 out of a 6. Failure to appear scale, Have you not shown up to court before? Have you ignored your traffic tickets or anything? He's on a 1. All right, so not a lot. Now, here's some risk factors. He's age 22. It's a violent offense, and he's 20 years or older. It's a violent offense. And he's not under the age of 20, so no. Pending charge, like he's not got another case. Does he have any other prior misdemeanor convictions? No. Any prior felony convictions? No. Any prior violent offense? 0. Any failures to appear? 0. Prior failure to appear older than 2 years? None. And any prior sentences before this case? None. So here are the recommendations. They say, we got to detain, or if you're going to release him, you got maximum conditions. Okay, it's a murderer. But if the statutory requirements are met, you hold him without bail. And this is interesting, right? So on this chart, we talk about these all the time. He's ROR, which is release on your own recognizance. Okay, just let you go. Except it's a murder case. So no bail. Now, pretrial release conditions, if you're released on your own recognizance and more, but none of that applies because he is being held without bond. And so that's the latest from the documents here. And we've seen people like this over on ABC talking about these text message exchanges. Like these are two like little lovebirds who should be in a Hallmark card or some, terrible Netflix movie. And here's what they said over on this station, because what they're trying to do is to whitewash this guy and to make him into a heroic figure that they can support and say, oh, he's being mischaracterized, just like they did with Luigi Mangione. We had Taylor Lorenz come out. He's so dreamy. We love him. And they just elevate these people into icons and heroic figures, and they do it very sneakily. They're not going to come out and just say, we love this guy. Instead, they'll do stuff like this.
We have seen an alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate who is transitioning calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love. So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing it in front of children, which is one of the aggravating circumstances of this case. And on the other hand, he was, speaking so lovingly about his partner. So a very interesting and, as Pierre said, riveting press conference, David.
It was.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so did you read it, man? Because it doesn't even feel real. And did you see the point about him sending a note before and how the note doesn't really match? Like there's no point of the note if he's just going to explain himself openly. And then the note's deleted. And we have a picture of it. But this dude is so enamored by a trans relationship. He's like, wow, I've never seen anything like this. I want to know more. Interesting. Going to read these again tonight when I get home. All right. Go indulge somewhere else. You can see the look on his face, right? It's weird. These are weird people. So we also had Mike Johnson coming out talking about this. Of course, there's been a lot of consequences for the individuals who were celebrating and cheering Charlie's death. And Mike Johnson weighed in on this, saying they're not entitled to jobs. They're not entitled to their positions. And it's time for them to go.
In that vein, there have been calls to go after organizations or people who have said things in violation of that very tragedy. But I'm wondering from a legal perspective, what is the line when it comes to free speech? Is it, and Kim Audio, addressed this in a podcast yesterday and kind of clarified it a little bit. And I'm curious from your perspective, what is the line when it comes to free speech?
Well, I mean, I approached this as a former litigator who defended free speech in the courts for a couple of decades. We defended religious freedom and speech that some people deemed to be inappropriate. Look, in America, it's a very important part of our tradition that we do not, this is a conservative principle, and certainly an American principle, we do not censor and silence disfavored viewpoints. People in America are allowed to say crazy things. Now, that said, if I'm an employer or I'm a government agency and I have someone in my employ who is online celebrating the heinous murder of an innocent person, a young husband and father, I can make the decision that they don't deserve to work for me. They shouldn't represent my company or my agency. And I have every right to do that, and I think that's appropriate. That's not the government censoring speech. That's personal behavior and decorum. And you have a right to enforce that. So I don't think it's a violation of core principles for people to have appropriate measures taken when they act like crazy people online. And that's up to the employers and these private businesses and these the people who make those decisions. That's not something that Congress is involved in. But I mean, I think all of that is intellectually consistent, and we'll continue to defend it.
All right, so that's Mike Johnson. We'll see if Congress looks into, the Antifa transnational criminal organization, or the Armed Queers SLC, or the NGOs that are funneling and funding all of this stuff, or if they'll just leave it at that. But that is from the Speaker of the House. And as we saw, we've got all of the files. So if you want to look into those documents in further detail, they're over on Substack, and you can just click this case files published here link. All the case files are over here, including the press briefing and the full first court appearance. And you can see not much was said in this first court appearance, but these are the people involved. So this is the judge. You can see Robinson is there in a suicide suit so that he doesn't off himself. And we have another situation where we got no answers on this because someone's dead. But here's a little bit of what happened at the press briefing. The judge who is presiding over this.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Is called Judge, this guy, Tony Graff. And so we'll probably have some familiarity with him moving forward. We got all the court links. If you want to go buy some records yourself, there's the court link for it. But here is more of this proceeding.
You're probably already aware of my presence or why I'm here, but if not, I am not entering an appearance. I'm not counsel on this case. I'm working with the county to get counsel assigned, but we need you to allow for the appointment of counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Scortis. I want to go through the qualifications.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so they'll go through the entire, is he entitled to an attorney? Is he actually indigent? Does he qualify and meet the criteria for it? And so he doesn't say much. He's just kind of sitting there nodding.
Reading the information. Mr. Robinson, this case is set for September 29th at 10 a.m. It will be a waiver hearing, and I will be the judge assigned to this case. Mr. Robinson, I invite you to join us at that time. Is there anything further, counsel?
No, Your Honor, we'll have counsel appointed by then. Thank you.
Mr. Gurander, anything further?
One item, just for clarification, Your Honor, the hearing on the 29th, is that in person or WebEx?
Thank you. That is a great question. It will be via WebEx.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
Okay, so hopefully that is broadcast so we can see it. So it's about 11 minutes, initial appearance, very quick. Usually the judge is just reading the information, which we just did, and making sure that there are some procedural items in place like counsel. And then what we heard him say about this waiver hearing, we're going to come back and we're probably going to see whether he gets officially indicted. Okay, so we've got now between now and September 29th. So you can charge people generally by two ways. Okay, one is like a criminal complaint that is a sworn affidavit that is coming from a police officer, and you can have a hearing about that, right? So you can call that officer in and say, actually, that probable cause was bad. We generally call them in Arizona preliminary hearings. So you have an early hearing. It's not a trial, but if you win, then you're good. Like your case is gone, okay? Because there's no probable cause for even the charges. So you can have that. The defendant can come in, cross-examine the cops, and they make their case. Or you just avoid all that, okay? Or you can have the defendant waive having the hearing, and you can just go right into a criminal, path. Like, so the defendant can waive that, which is what this waiver hearing is going to be about. Or you can just dismiss the information that we just read and dismiss the actual criminal complaint and indict that person via a grand jury. Okay, so in other words, the cop and the court are not validating probable cause that can be challenged by the defendant. A grand jury does it, and the grand jury just decides, under closed doors and secret, whether probable cause exists. And then when that comes back into the courts, the defendant loses the opportunity to request a hearing on that. Now, there's different mechanisms by which you can challenge a grand jury proceeding, but it's a much tighter process. Okay, so it's less risk to the government that they could lose the case at the probable cause determination level. So we're going to keep our eye on this. The documents are now out. He doesn't have an attorney yet. We're keeping track of everything over on Substack. Links are in the descriptions below. So if you want to stay up to speed on all the documents and details, we're going to link them up as they're published. And we if you want to go get them, you can. You just got to go buy them. So you can create a free account on this court records link. It's Utah courts, and all of the documents will be there. It's like $1 a document or whatever it is. So we're going to keep our eye on this one. Obviously, Tyler Robinson will be back in court September 29th. It sounds like we'll be here to cover it. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. Now we're sticking with this shooter because there's even more information coming out. New messages now leaked from Discord that implicate the Charlie Kirk assassin. All of this coming from KenKlippenstein.com, and he is writing over on Substack. And you can see lots of attention coming around this article because we've got some new photographs of the shooter, allegedly, and Discord messages. We've already seen the text messages that the government has officially released that seem very weird and like they're missing stuff. But we also have new Discord messages that also seem to have a confession inside. So here's what we've got. This guy, Ken Klippenstein, is reporting. He says, I obtained this and other Discord chats. I've decided to publish these things because the legacy news media won't do it, along with new information I've learned about Robinson from the people who knew him best. He said this on Discord. We've got screenshots of it now. We've heard a lot of rumors and writings about this. We're always asking, where are the screenshots, for crying out loud? We've got them. Thank you, Ken, for sharing these. He says, hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. Thus, Tyler Robinson told his friends on Discord, seemingly apologizing for murdering Charlie Kirk. He said, I'm sorry for all of this. Here are the messages. September 10th, this one we've got 3:17 p.m. Somebody drops in the chat, Charlie Kirk got shot. His name is redacted. You can see blacked out. He's dead. 3:44. Someone else says, I just saw the video. Holy, rest in peace, I guess. Bro didn't deserve to go out like that. Sad. Yeah, definitely didn't. Now, Zealous Monkey, who apparently is the shooter, said, hey guys, at 8:57 on 9/11. Okay, so we fast forward quite a bit. And this looks like it's continuous. So we've got, like, we see this break here, like a page break. And we don't use Discord a lot because they banned us. They threw us off after January 6th. They said, we're harmful and dangerous. We didn't shoot anybody in the neck. But hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all of this at 8:57. And Trump's going to make the announcement the next day that they've got him. So he's about to turn himself in. I'm sorry for all of this. I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a few moments. Thanks for all the good times and laughs. You've all been so amazing. Thank you all for everything. Right now we're asking, okay, thank you for what? Did they know about this? Or is this just like, I'm going away forever? Usernames are redacted, but Ken reports that Tyler Robinson is the Zealous Monkey. Got it. Now, Trump and company said that he was a left-winger. And he says the federal conclusion is going to call him an NVE, a nihilist, violent extremist, whatever. And so, there's all these different groups, MVEs, domestic VEs, religiously motivated RMVEs. Remember the Biden administration and the FBI created all of those. He notes the country's practically ready to go to war if we're not already in one. I mean, we had one of our top guys shot and killed. So I think we hope that we're not at war. We would prefer not to be in a state of war. But if the other side is killing our people, maybe they are in a state of war. And if they're declaring war on us, it's appropriate to respond to the reality of reality. It's been so terrible. And seeing it from the inside, the childhood friend said, is so frustrating. He's been Robinson's friend since middle school. He asked not to be named for fear of threats, and he provided me with the above non-public photo of Robinson on a camping trip, one of his favorite activities, to corroborate their relationship. Okay, so friend says, yep, that's me. That's the shooter. We're going camping. He said, I think the main thing that's caused so much confusion is that he was always generally apolitical for the most part. That's the big thing. He just never really talked about politics, which is why it's so frustrating. Now, the picture bears little resemblance to the media version. Robinson, although quiet, was well-liked. The friend group who he interacted with on Discord was far from the kind of militia camp or Antifa bunker that it's been portrayed as. They're talking about video games. Now, yesterday, Kash Patel said that he was a left-winger. And, well, so, who knows? Like, a lot of people still have a hard time figuring out the motive on this. We don't know what happened. We don't know why he did this. Okay. The act speaks for itself. There's a concept called re ipsa loquitur. We see it mostly in negligence cases, where it's the idea that the thing speaks for itself, okay? Are you negligent if you're running a factory and a refrigerator falls on your employee's head and kills them? Yeah. Does somebody have to prove negligence because the refrigerator fell out of the sky and crushed your employee? Not really, okay? The fact that the refrigerator fell and killed him is evidence enough. And there's a concept called res ipsa loquitur. Nobody knows how to say it, but you can spell it. All lawyers know what I'm saying. So it's the same concept, right? It's pretty obvious why he did this. Now, I don't even think Tyler knew how to answer that question. And here's some more of the messages. A lot of commentary in this article, but here's some messages. So here they're talking about Helldivers, which is the video game, right? One step closer to finding the dwarves. Hey, fascists, catch. They say that was widely reported to mean that he's a left-winger, but Ken, who I think is of the left, says that this was just a video game, right? It's just, and that's the same thing that we hear all the time. Like, oh, I hope he isn't killed, in Minecraft. Is that what everybody says? And you're like, oh, so you're endorsing murder. No, I'm talking about in video games. So it's just an internet thing. Now, private Discord messages also shared with him say that Robinson wasn't some kind of political martyr, saying he talked about Biden and Trump. The Trump post was a passing reference to impeachment. This is back in 2019, so old messages. An impeachment inquiry has been placed against Donald Trump. He could get booted out if they find he committed the crap he's accused of. Yeah, and it was all a made-up joke. Another one on the 20th, so 11/3, like election night, the next day. Who is winning the election? You would know, somebody says to Zealous Monkey. Zealous says Biden is in the lead in the electoral counts vote-wise, but there are still some swing states that haven't finished voting. And Raw votes Donald is in the lead by a little over 1 million. That's on 11/3. Who is going to win? I'm not sure. Trump was going to win until they rigged it late at night. Not until pretty late when we'll know. Now, the childhood friend was a member of multiple Discord chats, and he said Tyler was quiet and really smart. Here's some more messages. On 9/12/25, 1:58, 2 days after Charlie was killed, a message from somebody anonymous. Hey, everyone, if you have not seen the news yet, Tyler post above it is true. He was taken into custody earlier this day for the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Regardless of the horrible actions that took place, we must take this moment to remember that God is living, a living and loving God who loves all his children. God calls sinners to be his saints. And I ask that you all take a moment, quiet moment, to pray for Tyler and his repentance. When Charlie Kirk's politics were not acceptable to some, I ask that we all say a prayer for him and his family during these confusing times. Love you all. God bless. Here's one from a month ago from Bed Bug Inspector. I'm going to eep pretty soon. Very eepy. I am very ill. Another John Arbuckle appears. It says gullible on the ceiling. Don't look up. Spring in New Hampshire is another photo. Zealous Monkey sharing spring in southern Utah and talking about construction, and I know the feeling. Wall mounts. So a bunch of messages in there. Of course, most of it not relevant to anything, but okay. The federal government, the Washington crowd, and corporate media are seeing this in corporate terms because he shot Charlie in the neck. I don't know why that's so complicated, but a lot of people are trying to find other, look, they talked about concrete and other things. So I guess his argument is that he's not as bad as they say they are. All right, so those are the messages, courtesy of Ken Klippenstein. Now, meanwhile, the trans are just in love with Charlie's death. This psycho person called a U.S. Olympian called Chelsea Wolfe has found it fitting to tell other people to go suck a sawn-off shotgun. What a nice person. Wow. So Team USA has distanced itself from the first openly transgender Olympian over vile posts celebrating the assassination of Charlie. Her name is Chelsea Wolfe, who's now asked about transgender shooters. We did it, said this dude. Wolf wrote in an Instagram story sharing a report. We did it. What a psycho. Says, being a Nazi is completely optional. The trans athlete said. He didn't do all that, but he didn't have to do all that, but he did. Now he's dead, she said. Now, don't live your life in a way that the world is better following your death. And so here's this dude doing, backflips on BMX, beating the crap out of women. This is what this person said. Insane, right? You're a Nazi. We kill Nazis. That Connor Wolf's response is saying no males and females. Anyways, it's sick stuff from really twisted people. And a lot of the, just looking at somebody, I think you can have a sense of revulsion, right? As I do now looking at this image. I'll get it off the screen. But I think that means something. I know you're not supposed to talk about people's looks, and I know that's offensive to people, and not everybody, is like, beautiful and handsome and all the things or whatever. But there's something about having a physical revulsion to something that I think they actually enjoy. Like they actually want to look revolting and, look like that. So it's part of the demonic operation that is underway, and they embrace it and indulge in it. And just like the dark side, right? Just like the force perverts your face. That's a metaphor for what happens in real life. And we're seeing it on display. The demons look demonic. And that physical revulsion you feel, I think, is a good indicator of the truth. Or your body knows. Your instincts are pretty well attuned to things that are good and things that are bad. That's why when you see a little puppy, you get excited. And when you see a little cockroach, you don't. Okay, because some things warrant those responses. And so physical revulsion, I think, is a very good indicator of what's happening here. Now, Marco Rubio is saying, we've got these Olympians who apparently love murder, and I don't know why they're Olympians or what they're even doing. We have transgender Olympians beating the hell out of women. All right, so here is Rubio saying, visas need to be revoked for all of these people, and they're going to do that aggressively.
Well, I got to think about Charlie Kirk. You're a foreigner and you're out just celebrating the assassination of someone who was speaking somewhere. I mean, we don't want you. Why wouldn't we want to give a visa to someone who thinks it's good that someone was murdered in the public square? It's just common sense to me. We revoke visas of people. I don't know. We revoke visas of people that are inside the country. We've most certainly been denying visas. I mean, think about it. I want everybody to think about this for a moment. Okay? You're out there celebrating the assassination in cold blood of someone. And then you want to come in. Why would we want anything like that in our country as a tourist, as anything? We don't want to live here. We got to go a process and all these, but I'm sure there'll be something to revoke. There's no shortage of idiots around the world that decide it's a great idea to murder someone. That's true. More people like that in our country. By the way, it's bad that we have people that are U.S. citizens that feel that way. We can't revoke. We don't need a visa. They don't have a visa. But you're a foreigner. Why would we want to allow it to the United States, someone who's in favor of murder? We don't want pro-murder people in America.
We don't want them here, and we don't need them here, so they're going to be gone. Now, we're going to learn more, I'm sure, about these messages because we'd like to see them from the source. We'd like to see them from the government getting subpoenas issued and recovering the messages so that we can get to the bottom of it. But we now know that there will be another hearing. They're going to have a full committee hearing October 8th. And Comer has come out on the oversight committee, and he has asked for Discord, Steam, the video game company, Twitch, and Reddit to come in and testify in front of Congress. He says, the politically motivated assassination of Charlie Kirk claimed the life of a husband, father, and American patriot. In the wake of this tragedy and amid other acts of politically motivated violence, Congress has a duty to oversee the online platforms that radicals have used to advance political violence. And to prevent more of this, all these four companies should come in and explain what actions they'll take to ensure their platforms are not exploited for nefarious purposes. Yeah, and a lot of individuals on Twitch, and we talked about Destiny, I think, earlier this week. Apparently, he's already been banned off Twitch for a long time, which is kind of what I thought, because he was also on YouTube. But YouTube is not being brought to this, so I don't know if they're going to get questions about what they're saying about, endorsing basically murder and saying that there will be more of it until Trump is not the president or whatever's coming out of their mouths. But him, Hassan, and others may get some airtime in this conversation in front of Congress coming up soon. So we'll keep our eye on this, see what happens there. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. Now, we're not done yet. We're going to talk about this case and this guy. George Zinn, a very interesting character on scene at the Charlie Kirk assassination, has now been charged in 2 cases, one involving obstruction of justice for what happened on the scene, as you see, right outside where Charlie was killed. But the next one is also about other evidence that was discovered on this dude's cell phone that leads to other felony charges for exploitation of a minor ×4. Now we've got the documents, the charging materials that we'll read through to see exactly what happened in these messages and ask ourselves whether this dude is ultimately an accessory after the fact. Because after Charlie Kirk was killed, this guy was dropping to his knees, screaming, "I'm the shooter," making it difficult for the cops to react because they thought it was him. It wasn't him. What was he doing and why was he doing it? Someone who committed a crime he knew, and he assisted them knowing that they committed a crime. He may not have known their names per se, but he was intentionally had knowledge this person committed a crime, tried to help this person avoid arrest and punishment, and is an accessory after the fact. So we'll see if there is more than obstruction of justice or if the feds want to take this or whatever. But it's not just him, right? We're asking about a bunch of other people who kept this dude out of the limelight for 33 hours. So George Zinn and all the case files are available for this case and more at substack.com on our case files page. But the Utah County Sheriff came out and they explained the following for us. They said, here is the latest. Now, the arrest and the booking of George Zinn for obstruction of justice and possession of CSAM. Writing, on 9/10 in Utah, Zinn was attending an event where a shooting occurred. Shortly after that, while people were fleeing, Zinn was seen yelling, saying, "I had shot Charlie Kirk." Now, the police took Zinn into custody. They transported him back. He was not cooperative, and he did not want to speak with investigators at all. He then began to have a medical issue, like heart attack, and was transported to a local hospital. Now, while at the hospital, he did freely state, "I'm not the shooter," but admitted he yelled to hinder law enforcement, right, to help this assassin escape. Now, while Zinn was at the hospital, an FBI agent and an agent from the Utah State Bureau of Investigation met with Zinn, who agreed to speak with them concerning the matter. Zinn admitted that he had yelled that he was the shooter to allow the actual suspect to flee and to hinder law enforcement. And during this interview, the agents asked to look at his phone. He let them. He then told the agents that he uses his phone to view and abuse CSAM material. What? And there may be some images on the phone. He's like, also, I've got CP on there. Take a look. Those agents saw it. Several images on the phone of prepubescent girls scantily dressed. Oh my gosh. Now, at that time, the Special Victims Unit detectives, they were asked to take the matter over because there's child crimes, as the other agents were needed to help with the shooting. On 9/15, a search warrant was obtained for his phone. And during a preliminary review of the phone, they viewed 20 images of children ranging from 5 to 12 years old in various stages of undress and posing. There were several very graphic sexual text threads in which Zinn shared the images with others. He admitted to investigators that he gets gratification from viewing these, and he likes 5 to 12. What the hell? He's currently being held in Utah County Jail for second-degree felony obstruction and second-degree felony exploitation of a minor ×4. At this time, there was no information that he actually colluded with the shooter, like specifically, just helping them from afar. Zinn was in attendance and intentionally yelled he was the shooter, and by doing so, he obstructed law enforcement from focusing on the actual shooter. And the investigation into the CSAM stuff is ongoing. Here's just a snippet from the court docket. These are just probable cause determinations. So these are likely to be felony-ish charges. And George Zinn, this dude right here, has got a bunch of them, okay? So like 5/25, 2025, 1/28, 2025, 12/01/24, July 24th, 23, June 23, November 2021. All right, you get the point. So he's done a lot of these, and I don't know why he was still out of custody. Okay, like, you know, if these are all felonies and convictions and I haven't looked through them, why does this guy keep getting released? Like, has he been convicted of these? A lot of states, if you're on your third felony, thanks to Joe Biden and the crime bills of the 1980s, we've got this thing called 3 strikes, right? 3 strikes and you're out. You got like third felony offense. Many times, like you're going to prison. Okay, first offense, generally like probation. Second offense, jail. Third offense, prison. You have like offense 5, 6, 7, 8. It's like prison forever. Doesn't even matter what you're charged with because you've got 4 or 5 prior felonies. charged with one more felony. Like, too bad. On the charts, you're a repeat offender. You go away forever. So why is this dude out committing, CSAM crimes? I don't know. But here is what they write in the obstruction charge. Okay, so this is the first obstruction case and the probable cause statement. So on September 10th, this guy's called Detective Dutson. He was on duty working in Valley University. He was stationed at the back of the venue to stop anyone from entering the event. He writes, at about 12:20 p.m., I heard what sounded like a single gunshot. He was there at 11. I immediately observed patrons attending the event starting to run in every direction. And so I observed a person lying on the ground, and it appeared people were attending to the person. I started to work my way through the crowd that was running from the area. I was approached by an elderly male that was later identified as George Zinn. This dude runs up, immediately starts yelling at me, this detective. I shot him. Now shoot me. I could see both of his hands and I could not see a weapon. He again stated, I shot him. Now shoot me. I then advised him, you're under arrest, and he was placed into handcuffs. I asked the suspect, where's the gun? He stated, I'm not going to tell you. I did a quick search of his person, did not feel or find a weapon. I then started to escort George to a patrol car that was at the back of the venue. He continued to state that he shot the individual, Charlie, and to just shoot him. He was placed in a patrol car. Officer Wallace and I transported him to the Utah Valley University Police Department. And that video is linked up over here. And let's just pull that up so we can share that with you right away, because he was making a lot of noise. And let's see where we have him. The press briefings, key witnesses, George Zinn over here. So here was the actual video of him being arrested, screaming this stuff over on the day of the shooting.
How dare you! How dare you! How dare you! How dare you! How dare you!
Okay, people very upset, obviously. And he keeps dropping, okay? Drops to his knees, drops to his knees. They got to pick him up. His pants are falling down. Drops to his knees again. Finally, they got to pick him up. Another cop grabs his legs.
He said he shot him, but I don't know, dude.
Said he shot him, but I don't know. Okay, so one of those might be the detectives who is actually writing this report, who was explaining that. And here's what he said. Now, I then advised him he's under arrest. He's placed in the handcuffs. Where is the gun? I'm not going to tell you. Then transported him to the hospital. When we arrived at the police department, I attempted to interview George Zinn. Before advising him of his right, he stated he wanted an attorney. So at that point, I advised George. I did not think he was the one who did the shooting. But since he wanted an attorney, I could not talk to him. Then at that point, he advised, he says, I'm already going to be in trouble for saying I shot him, even if I did not. I did not ask him any more questions at that point since he wanted a lawyer. He stated on his own that he did not shoot the individual, just started talking, and he stated that he did it to draw attention from the real shooter. Now, due to a medical condition, George was transported to the hospital. Officer remained with him in the emergency room. And during this time, George made statements to the officer that he was glad that he said that he shot the individual so the real suspect could get away. He also stated to officers that he wanted to be a martyr for the person who was shot, admitted to the hospital. George was admitted to the hospital. They stated they would contact law enforcement when he was released. On September 15th, he was released from the hospital, transported back to jail. I booked him on the charges below. Now, the suspect, while at the even, made statement that he did the shooting, which delayed and took up law enforcement resources, and therefore George Zinn is being booked into the county jail for second-degree felony. This was committed during the act of murder of Charlie Kirk. I submit this affidavit under penalty of perjury signed by Michael Dutson. And that's just on the obstruction charge. We also have the exploitation charge, and this is the probable cause statement for this. On 9/10, the day Charlie was murdered, I arrived and began searching for a suspect. I was clearing buildings and evacuating students. When the shooting occurred, a male was taken into custody in the university courtyard. Male identified as George Zinn. George claimed to have shot Charlie Kirk. Officer subdued him, placed him into handcuffs. Dutson is the officer that took him into custody. Now, Zinn was initially taken to the police department, transported back to the hospital, chest pain. And while at the hospital, he said, yep, I said what I said because I wanted to draw attention away from the real shooter so I could help the shooter get away. So then investigators responded to the hospital. They started to talk to him. FBI agents appeared on scene. Agent Hyman and Agent Hansen, Hyman and Hansen showed up, conducted an interview with George. George, typo, was read his Miranda warning and interviewed. In this interview, George admitted that he was not the shooter. Toward the end of the interview, the agents asked to go into his phone, and George said, sure. The agents asked if there would be anything illegal in the phone, anything in there that we should know about before you just give us permission to use it. He says, yeah, I used the phone to look at CSAM material, which is just the wildest admission you've ever seen. The agents sat with George briefly and looked through some of the phone's contents. The photos contained images of female children, prepubescent, 5 years old, dressed in underwear. George told investigators that he was aroused by young kids, and due to the events at the time, the phone was seized, and the interview terminated shortly after. A referral was made to the sheriff. Now, George admitted that there was CSAM on his phone and stated that he would often delete it because I know I could get in trouble for it, man. And I don't know what the Utah laws are, but in Arizona, man, per image, every image stacks. Now, I was assigned to investigate this case and coordinated with another detective, and I reviewed the contents of the phone. After we got the search warrant, I observed many images of young female children as child erotica. One definition is non-pornographic material related to this that is used for gratification. The images almost always depict children posed in swimsuits, underwear, or other compromising positions. Gosh, there are more than 20 images on George's phone in the images section. These images are copied and reused more than 50 times in separate conversations with other PDF files. George is sending these images in over 5 conversations saying that they are his daughters, asking people to, Jesus. So George, he's having these text messages. See if there's any dots in these. We don't see anything there. Says here, George is sending, he says, sweet name withheld 5. Sends photos, unknown number, says, wow, disgusting language. Horrific, not even going to read it. I observed in the sent images section of George's cell phone 4 images. The following descriptions of them exist. And we've got, genitals exposed and all sorts of just horrific things. So he's going to prison for a long time. The additional 3 CSAM images are being sent and received by George in a similar manner to other conversations. His phone is going to be forensically downloaded. He was released from the hospital, transported back to jail. Charges now 4 counts, exploitation of a minor. I request that he be held without bail because he is actively seeking contact with young female children. He's discussing these acts and more. Is horrific. So signed by Caden Cook, and they got that dude pretty dead to rights on that stuff. So here is the public safety assessment report, which obviously this dude is a bad dude. Age at the current arrest, 71. Current violent offense, no. Pending charges at the time of the offense, yes. Prior misdemeanor, yes. Prior felony convictions, they say no. But a prior conviction is yes. So he has no prior felonies? That's pretty interesting based on his history. So prior failure to appear, yeah, 4 times. Prior failure to appear older than 2 years, yes. Prior sentence to incarceration, yes. And so you can see he is way higher up right here. You're going to put him on maximum conditions and hold him without bail. So don't let him out. And of course, they're not going to do that. So he's being held without bail on both counts, one for the obstruction charge and probably not getting out of custody anytime soon. So that's the case with this guy and some strange stuff. And it's weird that, when these Democrats come out of the woodwork, it's like Kyle Rittenhouse. Remember him? He showed up, he shot 3 people, and they were one was a burglar, one was a pedophile, and one was a rapist or whatever. I forget what the actual charges were, but remember that? It's they're just kind of everywhere. Where are these people? Why are they here at this event, right? Obviously, they're just trying to muck things up. And this guy, is now being charged. The CSAM stuff is probably going to result in him going away forever, and the obstruction charge isn't going to help. But is he an accessory after the fact? Were there others in the crowd? Did the shooter have any actual help? We'll keep our eye on it, my friends. Thanks for subscribing and joining, as we do. All right, so now it's time for a shower after that reading. But now let's hear from you. If you're just joining us, quick recap on what we talked about. We went through the official charging documents, both the affidavit of probable cause and the criminal information that have been submitted. Looked through those text messages and thought it was strange, very strange. Maybe that's how they talk. Maybe these missing portions of the transcript are irrelevant. Maybe the timing is not that consequential. But this is the weirdest part of the whole thing. Drop what you were doing and look under the keyboard. And then they have these overly engineered conversations that explain everything, explain the entire crime. Strange stuff. So we covered that. Read through it. We looked at all the public assessment reports, saw what this weird news anchor is saying. He loves transgender poetry. Probably going to read some tonight. And we heard from Speaker Johnson saying we're going to continue to support companies who are letting their murder lovers go. We then looked at Ken Klippenstein's release from these Discord messages. I don't know that it was really all that interesting, quite frankly, because a lot of it's just kind of irrelevant, not even closely related. So it's back about the election and other things. But we got that information. We saw a disgusting transgender Olympian who apparently beats the crap out of women in BMXing. Rubio was here today, and Comer is going to be holding an oversight meeting very soon with the tech bros and to ask them questions about what they're doing to instigate this violence across America. We also talked about George Zinn, and we went through his case. A lot of people had questions about him. What is he doing? What's his role in any of this other than just being a crazy person? But now we know. We saw what he's into, and it's horrific. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And let's see what you say about all of this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us. Thanks for becoming members. Grabbing the members only morning stream. Be sure to check out our Substack if you want to check out all of the documents that we have in the house that we've shared. And interesting. Okay, so we got some great comments coming in, my friends. Thank you for sending some of these in. It's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Thanks for being here. It's Wacky Wednesday. This dude is definitely, into it. All right, Travis, what's up? Bucky's is Rome says, I said this morning on the stream that the right is falling and failing into a trap by being psyoped into blaming the Jews for everything. And now Andy No has the proof. And Andy No had a post about this. I saw Bonnie flagged it for us. Andy No is saying that Antifa is writing that they're losing, okay? They don't like, people don't like militant trans. They don't like militant Antifa people. It's not working for them. So they're saying what we need to do, according to Andy No, is to create a wedge on the right. And this morning on the members only stream, we talked about that because there is very clearly a wedge forming on the right. We had Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly come out, I think, essentially providing some support to Candace Owens in a way. And then we had a reaction to that. We had Bill Ackman on the other side, Mark Levin, and a lot of other people on the other side. And this wedge feels like it's coming to a head. Okay, Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson coming back out. Candace Owens today had over 200,000 people watching her show, which is crushing of any other numbers. It's bigger than all the cables combined. Okay, it's crazy. So there's a real conversation happening right here. And Andy says this might be an intentional wedge that Antifa is using. Says people like Candace are causing the coalition on the right to collapse, and these insane theories are going to turn off the middle of the country that determines who wins in 2026. This is turning into utter insanity, courtesy of Bucky's is Rome. Says, rub some dirt on it, shared this. Glenn Beck, while doing Charlie Kirk's podcast, gave Rush Limbaugh's golden mic that was given to him by Rush's widow to Charlie. It was awesome. I saw that clip. Glenn's awesome. Rush Limbaugh's a hero of mine. Charlie Kirk's a hero of mine. And so I thought it was a beautiful honor. I think that Glenn Beck, if you saw the clip, it was great. Brought it out, started crying, like put it over in Charlie's seat. Epic. It was great. Hey, and thank you, Rub Some Dirt on It for that. What's up? Don Lane in the house. Great to have you, Don Lane in the house. Yeah, as a new member. We'll see you in the after party. We'll head over there in just a minute. What's up, Don? What about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, published on Amazon a day before Kirk's murder? A release date Amazon blames on a computer glitch? Yeah, that was an interesting story, too. And I don't know what the background is on that, but maybe Amazon can provide some more information to the FBI and they can get to the bottom of it. But yeah, that was an interesting one. I saw the book. I haven't confirmed that it was published before, but I saw screenshots of the book. One Old Guy's Opinions says, where is the note now? Where is the note now? I think it's gone, shredded, deleted, burned, who knows? But they have a photo of the note, and that's how they know it's real and authentic, and it's exactly what it says. Anna Nita, what's up, Anna Nita? In the house. Thanks for becoming a supporter and supporting us over here on the day. Doan, what's up, Doan? Says optics on TR's rifle are said to have cost $2,000. Yeah, he mentioned that even in that affidavit. What is this one? Oh, yeah, this is pretty interesting. So here you've got this. Here Natalie Ray says, popular meme among that crowd. You got these two bros who think that they're women talking to each other. Hee hee, you're a cutie. Flops beside you and nuzzles. Then some other giant bro says, nuzzles you back and pounces on you and notices your bulge. Oh, W.O., what's this? I think that's real. That's probably a real image from the internet. Yeah. King of Biltong is here. What's going on, King of Biltong? Says, did you know we also specialize in imported foods? We didn't until recently. Check out the updates to Biltong USA for a great selection of food items and, of course, Biltong. Go to biltongusa.com. Code Robert's going to save you 10% off of your Biltong, baby. So check it out. Thank you, Biltong, for the nice dono and for being here on the day. You're awesome. Amber Mellenbacher says, I use a lot of ... my bad text habits. No reason. From Amber Mellenbacher. So I don't know if that's what he was doing. Like, I don't think that the ... are a part of the message. Okay. Cause if they were a part of the message, right, wouldn't those ... be here? Like you'd say, you might have, I don't know what I want for dinner, ... right? Wouldn't they be like right there rather than right here? It would be, he uses a period right here. So that is the end of his conclusion. ... I think means that a huge portion of his messages were cut out. And they just picked it back up. Another ... And let's see if we have any more. So he puts crying face here. Another period right there. That's the end of that's thought. ... Another period. ... Is somebody transcribing these and summarizing these, or are these verbatim? And were these other conversations? Other like, what else are they talking about? Did they pause and talk about what's for dinner? It could be a time delay. Yeah, it could just be, minutes, 10 minutes went by. I don't know. All of it's relevant though. So we got questions about it. So of course, I don't know that anything in this, points to somebody else. I don't think there's anything that shows that. I just think that there's some weird, strange stuff happening. And I got questions about this little secret note and about the roommate's real involvement. Good to see you, Amber Mellenbacher. What's up, Diamond Gun? Two full babies in the house. 18 months as a membo. Thanks for being here, Diamond Gun. We've been through some serious stuff together. All twigs, no berries. Yeah, we don't know what the full status of that person was. But maybe the berries are still there, but on the way out. We don't know. Natalie Ray, hey, Grok, says this emoticon is typically used to convey crying or sadness, with the semicolons representing teardrops and the dots symbolizing closed eyes. It's often used in online chats to express emotional distress or dramatic reaction. Yeah, and I think he was referencing in that emoji that he lost his $2,000 scope right there, right? It's like, oh man, $2,000 like down the drain because I shot and killed someone. Drunk Pinata says, later he'll take those texts home and read them later at night. LOL, I actually did a spit take on that, Rob. Well, he was very excited about him, wasn't he? He's like, wow, it's like poetry. It's like, wow, they're so in love with each other. Relax. You're a news anchor. What's wrong with you? Go home and do that on your own time. Bodie, I have questions. Seems like the text thread is meant to wrap up everything so no one looks any further than him. As well as there seems to be a lot of planning for only a week. Where was he hiding out? Did anyone help him? Yeah, it's like, why would you write a note saying that you did the thing if you're going to just text somebody and say you did the thing? It's like kind of duplicative. Like, what are you doing? It feels like he might be trying to protect his lover, is where I think this is ultimately going. Lone Wolf, what's up, Lone Wolf? Thank you for becoming a new member, upgrading to shout out. We appreciate you being there. Casey! From Kermit. Casey J. Gates, what's up, Casey? Thanks for gifting membos over on Rumble. You're amazing. Look who's coming in. Dog Digger got gifted. Jim Ma, what's up, Slightly Salty? Bad Dude is in the house. And White Wolf, all gifted membos, courtesy of Casey J. Gates. Thank you, Casey, for doing that. Welcome, new membo friends. Russell Moyer, what's up, Russell Moyer? Welcome aboard. Great to have you here. And we'll see you on the after party here in just a minute. We got Doan says, you know, another elephant in the room is Trump recently floating that T's should be declared mentally ill and that they shouldn't own guns. Yeah. Yeah, I think that there was a conversation about that. I don't think that that has really percolated or evolved anywhere. And yeah, put him in. Yeah. And so they shouldn't own the guns is what the conversation was. I don't know if that's ultimately going to be going anywhere, but if the T's are feeling like they're under attack and now there's a lot more conversation about, you know, them being responsible for political murders, what is that going to cause that contingent to do? Think they're just going to like, oh, we're going to be nice now? Or is it going to go the other way? What's up, G-Men? Is talking about wood chippers that exist in the game of Minecraft. Thank you, G-Men, for that one. Here's this one from Who Cares says, this just gets weirder and weirder. I wonder how deep this goes. I wouldn't be surprised if a criminal organization is behind the whole thing from Who Cares. I mean, and there's weirdness about this. So we saw yesterday, we went on the show and talked all about Armed Queers SLC and how they had a woman called Ermia who was running the place, who has now scrubbed all of her connections. And also, did we see Elizabeth Warren? Did I have that pulled up? There's a photo of Elizabeth Warren with that leader. Let me see if I have this somewhere. Somebody snagged this. Great find. I think I added it to our notes, but I'm not positive about that. So let me pull this up. I think, where was this? A picture of Elizabeth Warren. Do I have it? Do I have it? Do I have it? Do I have it? I don't think I have it. All right, I'll find it later. But Elizabeth Warren, like holding hands with this woman from Armed Queers SLC. State Department was gifting Utah Diplomacy Global a bunch of money. UN was giving them money. So it's like all this money trickles down into the Armed Queers. And the Armed Queers were following Lance Twiggs. And one of the Armed Queers, allegedly, in one of the messages, was very excited about what happened after the fact. So definitely some strange things there. G-Man, what's up? Yeah, what? Yeah, G-Man asks a good question. Why is everybody who criticizes Israel, quote, against the Jews? I don't really know. I don't know. I truly do not understand it. The Israeli government is not the Jews. They are a sovereign state. I truly do not understand why you can criticize every single government in the world and not have this issue unless it is Israel. Israel is not equivalent to Jews, from G-Men. Yeah, that's a complicated question. I don't know. I think Bibi Netanyahu would maybe say say differently. Like it's all the same. Every single Jewish person believes the same, and you can't have any, challenges to orthodoxy or something. But yeah, we're not against the Jews. I mean, I don't have any problems with Jews. I just have questions about American foreign policy as it relates to foreign nations. So that's where we're at. But we talked about a lot this morning. So if you're interested in this conversation, we'll have a full segment coming out. But we talked a lot about this morning. And, my perspective, as I mentioned this morning, is that it's not 100% or 0%. Okay, it's not the Jews are responsible for every single problem in the world. And it's also not the Jews or Israel, however you want to define them. And I think that Bibi, last we heard, says it's all one thing. I don't even know what that means exactly, but okay. Also not 0% responsible for nothing. Like the most innocent nation in the entire world. Okay, it's probably not either one of those. And so we can find ourselves somewhere in the middle and have a conversation about it, just like we do with every other country without being called anti-Semitic or whatever, because we've already had those phrases. Okay, they're calling us Islamophobes now. They're calling us transphobes. They're calling us everything under the sun. And when that happens, when you start calling people names, it doesn't engender sympathy. It doesn't engender love or, a strong desire to join your team, just in general. When people call us names, we just don't appreciate it because we're allowed to have positions on these issues. So anyways, thank you for that, G-Man. We got this one from Penguin. Membo for 27 months. Thank you, Penguin. That's a long time, my man. Coming up on, that's 3 babies. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Penguin, for being here. We appreciate you being here for so long and being with us. Jess Stewart. What's up, Jess Stewart? If a server for a sale is in a time zone that is still in 9/9/2025, a computer in a 9/10/2025 time zone could see it sold on the previous date. That's interesting. So, but I mean, so like if you wrote a Charlie Kirk assassination book, wouldn't you upload that? Like if that was right on 9/10, like after the shooting, and then it would either be a 9/10 date or a 9/11 date, right? By the time it was processed. So you're saying if somebody uploads it on 9/10, there's still some server somewhere that says 9/9? Yeah, maybe. Drunk Pinata. But that person got that book up like immediately, right? Hey, could be dots in texts where the other person is typing. That's interesting. Yeah, like when you're on RCS text messages, you can see the other person ... typing. You think they would have transcribed that from the interviews? Because wouldn't that have completed, like the person would have typed and sent, and then they would have just included that? Or the person just was typing indefinitely and typing indefinitely, just typing. Interesting. Thank you, Drunk Pinata, for that. Former LEO says, wow, from Jack Posobiec, ABC pulled Jimmy Kimmel live after his Charlie Kirk assassination comments. That's great. I didn't watch the full thing. I listened to about 20 seconds of it because it's so reprehensible. But good riddance to him, man. And Colbert, they're all getting nuked because they're just terrible people. Hey, what's going on, Milan? I was watching Candace when I had to cut over to this community. She was just on before. She had over 200,000. It's like a massive amount of people. Said, I had to cut over to this community. While listening to everything you've said, a crazy thought. Could this actually be a revenge thing against her expose about Bridget M? I started going down the logic of this, and so many things would benefit derailing Candace. That's interesting, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was listening to a little bit of it from Candace, and I do think this morning we were talking about, like, what was Charlie's legacy, I think is where the debate is right now. And Tucker and Megyn Kelly came out, and Tucker said yesterday that he doesn't think that Israel killed Charlie. Okay, they're not talking about like blaming Israel for his death. They're upset about the misappropriation of his legacy, but by who they think is Bibi Netanyahu, who came out, kind of started the whole thing, said, I have a letter from Charlie. This is what he believed, and this is what we're communicating, and we're going to do this on Charlie's behalf. So Tucker and Megyn came out, and they said, actually, there's another side to this story, and Charlie's legacy is not exactly that, right? And if I were, if my friend was shot and killed, I would want to defend their legacy too. So I don't know where, what is right. And maybe this is a wedge issue between both sides. And JD Vance and others in the administration, JD Vance posted about this today. He's like, stop killing each other over this issue, please. But it's a big issue. I mean, these are major forces on our side. So to not talk about it or to not reference it, I think is a disservice, which is why obviously we talked about it, because it, how is this going to unfold? Where is it going to go? And, do you just join forces and kind of ignore those little things? You might have a disagreement about how his legacy is being interpreted, but it's better than having the party fracture apart. Agree to disagree kind of a thing. There's a lot of calls for that from specifically, I think, the Daily Wire crew and, Matt Walsh and those people. So I don't know, but I will tell you this, man. I haven't seen 220,000 people on a live stream in a long time, and Candace had that today. So this conversation is happening, whether people like it or not. Deluxe Knight says, I use the ... When I'm about to have to be sarcastic, like having a thought process mid-sentence, bruh, Cash was a monster yesterday. Bruh, ... If I want to chase bad guys, you better do a pull-up. If you want to chase bad guys, you better do a pull-up. Oh yeah, that was from Cash. Yeah, that was pretty funny. Yeah, apparently FBI agents have to do a pull-up. Just crazy. Yeah, G-Man says, man, I'm not against the Jews either, man. My dad was Jewish until he met my mother and converted, so I'm definitely not against Jews. That's half my family. I, however, do have many questions about Israel, and AIPAC needs to register under FARA. From G-Man. Yeah, I think it's okay to have questions about any foreign government. And if you tell me we can't have questions and call us names, it's not endearing, okay? It's not endearing. Even if you want to support you, it's not endearing. And by contrast, I don't think everything was the Jews. I think that's very lazy in a way, right? People saying the Jews are responsible for everything. It's kind of the same argument as, you know, white people are responsible for everything, or the patriarchy is responsible for everything. And I think there needs to be some, you know, self-autonomy and some recognition that we're responsible for our own futures in many ways. Like, many of Americans' problems are because Americans are not engaged in our process and not demanding more from our politicians and too busy focused on Taylor Swift and sports than they are their own self-governance. Okay. And so it's easy to just blame some other fictional group for something, or say that they're responsible for a lot of things. Maybe they have some impact, but we also want to be able to discuss these matters as they relate to America, because they're taking up a lot of the conversational bandwidth for sure. Jess Stewart, what's up? Very good point about when the book was written. Yeah, so like maybe Amazon servers are located, but where would they be located that is still like 9/9? Like, isn't most of the rest of the world ahead of us? I don't know. Anyways, thank you, Jess Stewart. Yeah, it's interesting, the book one. Deluxe Knight, on another thought from earlier. Rifle optics can get expensive quickly. The green dot optics on two of my protection game toys cost $800 each, and one X optical zoom. Also, a good quality long range spotter scope usually starts around $1,500. Just some fun facts. Just some fun facts there. And look at this person. Too old, am I? Oh, that's that guy. I think I recognize him. One old guy says, I'm more suspicious about the entire Kirk incident. Smells of an LHO patsy. The end result of right uprising, stay frosty, don't take the bait. We are wiser and smarter than the rioters who celebrated this incident and endure the race. Yeah, and I think, there's this concept that comes from the 12 steps, which I think is applicable to a lot of things that we've covered here, which is there's a concept of attraction versus promotion. Okay. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar. If you become an attractive person and you don't indulge in murder and you want a safe civil society where people can agree to disagree, that's a more attractive idea than the alternative, right? So you just live in that way. In other words, you don't have to promote yourself. Don't have to promote and say, we're better than you, we're better than you, we're better than you, and they're wrong and they're bad, and like, let's go to war and all these things. You just live honorably with integrity, and you hope that a sizable majority of the population join you on that. But also, if they're at a state of war and shooting our people, then sometimes just, that type of methodology is not going to be effective. We hope it is, but we'll see where it goes. Villa Plot, what's up? Hey, I just stumbled on this while browsing and it made me chuckle, so I had to share. What is this? You're going to get me canceled for Me Too violations. Look, there were cords all over the ground right there. Okay. All over the ground. And I was just making sure she had proper balance. That's her center of gravity right there. All right. That was from AmFest last year. We got a booth and Charlie Kirk was there with President Trump. And I was making sure Alexis had proper balance. Dan Sundin, what's up? We will drill down regarding the ebook. Reporting will be uncovered. Will be uncovered from Dan Sundin. Yeah, I hope so. I hope we get more on that. Quadcam, what's up? I think the text exchange is definitely just a transcription. You can see they replace what probably was he with my dad in one place. This also implies that the ellipses, the dots, represent them omitting messages, since they felt the word he lost context due to the missing messages and replaced he with my dad. Yeah, so it's somebody's definitely transcribing it. I guess to be more specific about my question, let's see where that was. Mentioning the dad thing. I'm in Orem. Man, I'm not seeing it. Worried about my dad's serial number on Fox News. There it is. Yeah. Since Trump got into office, there you go. My dad. Man, I didn't even catch that. That's a good catch. So like, it's definitely a transcript, right? The person who's drafting this document, the county attorney's office, they're looking at the photos and transcribing what they think is relevant in here. And so you're right. They adjusted it for context, and they, I would guess, left out lots of dots in the transcript. So I would agree with that. I think that you're confirming that, replaced it. So it's a transcript. Is it a summary, or is it a verbatim transcript with just some minor modifications for ease of clarity in reading? I don't know. We'll see. What's up? We got Amber Mellenbacher. Some people's husbands shouldn't even quote bruh or bruh, LOL. Let's all get at least one pull-up strong. Yeah. It's good. And I think, there's a lot of studies that say your grip strength is very critical to your longevity. If you have longevity, okay, you have good grip strength, you'll live longer, is what they say. Lee Harvey Oswald, what's up? Is in the house. One old guy says LHO is Lee Harvey Oswald. Amazing. Very nice to see you there. Thank you, one old guy. And here you go. Okay, take Jews out of the equation. The fact that Israel is the only democratic country in the Middle East which do not oppress women and allow other religions is enough for me to support the U.S. supporting and arming them. We don't agree 100% with any of our allies, and Israel's no exception, but they are undeniably our strongest ally in that region. From Uncle Bozy. Yeah, and I don't want to make this whole, after show conversation about Israel and our relation with them. But I know there's a lot, and I think even Charlie Kirk had that position. Some people were saying that Charlie's position was, I think I heard him say this, that he wants the holy sites to be protected, right? Like that enough is alone is enough to have the U.S. support Israel because they're in control of the holy sites. And if there is no Israel, then maybe these other countries come in and they commandeer the holy sites for their own religion, kind of a thing, right? So I think, you can have a lot of debate about this. I think a lot of people would respond and they would say, well, why is Israel such a strong ally? Like, what is the benefit there? Are we doing a lot of trade with them? I know the strongest response to that is intelligence. They give us intelligence. I still don't really know what that is exactly. So is it just the fact that it's a democracy? I don't know. But anyways, we criticize all countries here if we want to, and that's America. And I don't think we should be castigated for it. I think these conversations are reasonable, right? What is the justification for American policy? And I think it's a necessary conversation to have, honestly. But I don't know. I'm sure people think that I'm anti-Semitic as a result of saying that. Just Rhonda says, I am Charlie Kirk. Great emoji. Just Rhonda sent a new email in, so we're going to get those updated. And thank you, Just Rhonda, for sending those. Purveyor of fine emojis. Uncle Bozy, thank you for the comment on that. And I think it's a reasonable position. We've got this on X. Let's say what's up to X. And Miss Dana says, where are the timestamps? Where are the timestamps? Yeah, I don't know. Deleted. Text exchanges kept confidential for trial? Maybe. But maybe they'll release them in discovery or something like that. But they're not going to pop them out at trial. They're going to have to be disclosed at some point if they're useful. And if they are useful, you'd think you'd see them in the original information. Yeah, G-Man asks a question that many people ask. Remember those poor sailors of the USS Liberty? Who needs enemies when you've got allies like that? Yeah, and, you know, there's a lot of, I think, questions about our intelligence agencies and how they work together and the role of influence in the United States. And I think all the conversations can happen without you wishing that all Jews are dead or that Israel is, you know, thrown off the map. Like, nobody's even saying those things. Generally speaking, a lot of the people who they say are saying those things are not actually saying those things, right? They said Charlie Kirk was an anti-Semite, which is one of the craziest things I've ever heard. So, all right, my friends, thank you for sending that in and for being here and for getting into the conversations that everybody loves. Let's see who is here over on X. Then we're going over to our after party. What's going on? Neuro D in the house. Thank you, Neuro D, for linking us up over on the Rumbles. Fred Pedamonte says, okay, so this a-hole said Charlie Kirk spread too much hate. Well, now you've spread too much blood. TJ King says, Jimmy Kimmel is now gone. Announced the company's own partner would preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live for the foreseeable future, beginning with tonight's show. Bye-bye. Hey, Guernica says, I wonder if Arctic Frost targeted only Trump-aligned Republican organizations. Would be interested to see whether or not any McCain, Cheney, or Romney-aligned orgs were also caught up. Yeah, there was a lot of other news on that. Arctic Frost and the attacks on Peter Navarro and even Charlie Kirk and TPUSA. So, all right, my friends, it has been a beautiful stream. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for getting into the weeds on the Israel stuff. It's going to be a conversation that's happening. I mean, there's now a lot of, even Ted Cruz was talking about it. Okay. Like this fracture or division that's happening on the right, I think is going to be around for the foreseeable future. So we're going to have to learn how to talk about it and not kill each other over it if we're going to want to move forward on this. That's my only point. That's what we want to offer, is we don't want us to knife ourselves in a way that leads to the Democrats winning everything. So how do we do that and engage with each other? Time will tell, but thank you for understanding that that is our approach. So shout out on X. What's up? One old guy says, photo of the note. Who took it? Where is it? Is it authentic? Who verified it? Yeah, it's a great question. Apparently it's just a photo. So there is no note. So was that photo of the original note, or was that of the fake note that was a second note that tried to exonerate the roommate? I don't know. All right. So my friends, thank you, one old guy. Appreciate that. We are now going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com, and we have our members only after party on YouTube. So we're going to drop a new link in the chat, and we'd love to have you come and join us in the after party. But if we don't see you here, we're coming back tomorrow. Before we wrap it up tonight, we want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. We got Donut and John clipping for us. K-Bean, Carrie B this morning, thank you. We have Neuro D, Janek, and Dog Digger over on the Rumbles. G-Gum, Elliot, and our purveyor of fine emojis here, Just Rhonda, all helping out around this stream, and we're grateful for it. But we'll pause here for the evening, my friends, and of course, we'll come back tomorrow. We're going to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share, and bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together we are watching the watchers shine in the light, watching the watchers defending what's right, watching the watchers stay each night together and live